Hello, everybody. Brian Foote here. Welcome back. I want to talk to you about screening, what you need to do to sort out or narrow down the universe of industries and ultimately companies that you want to analyze. I'll tell you a little bit of a history of how I got started in screening, and this goes back more than 40 years. Um, Many investors I know started not in the stock market, but really collecting things like baseball cards and stamps, coins, comic books. I grew up in the 1980s, and when I was growing up, a lot of speculation centered around baseball cards. Some of us diversified the portfolio into comic books. There was no ability to trade on your dad's account over at Schwab or Fidelity unless you actually physically got in a car or got on the phone and impersonated your dad. So I was a avid collector and avid speculator in things like baseball cards and comic books. At its essence, what I did was use cash flow for my existing business, my paper route, to fund the comic book speculation. The same way that you, as a non-investing professional, probably fund your investment account with your cash flow from your existing business, right? That's the appropriate way to do, right? You take excess capital and invest it into things which are inexpensive. What I was doing back in the mid 1980s was buying up Superman and Batman, X-Men, Avengers. I was seeing that just as you see in the stock market, the speculative fervor, I was seeing Superman and Batman titles that had been priced at 10 cents when my father was growing up, selling at thousands of dollars. There was actually rumors of kids with that relative who discovered the $1 million comic book trove. You guys might remember that from your youth. And everybody was asking their grandmothers and grandfathers, did you have any comic books in the attic that maybe your dad or your uncles left up there? With stamps, comic books, coins, and it's still the case now, you could look up the values in books, the street values of these things. I recall monthly that there was one for comic books that used to come out, and I use it to track the value of my collection as it expanded. You had street values of basically every comic book that had ever been published, right? And you saw how that 10-cent investment back in the 1930s or 40s had meteorically risen to, $100 or $1,000. All right, and think about the percentage return on that, even inflation adjusted. So for me, as a 10-year-old kid back in the mid 80s, I realized this could be my trip to fame and fortune, investing in comic books. So what I do is I methodically plot the values and use these data to inform my moves. Fast forward 40 years later, we're still doing the same thing, right? You have the access to the internet. Obviously, instead of comic books, you're looking at stocks. The metrics are a little bit more available to you, not only because of the availability of the internet, but also stocks are measured on far more things than scarcity, right? The guides were basically a straightforward list, right? They give you the title, the number in the series, the price, based on condition, the grade of the thing. How do we grade comic books? Well, it was basically if the paper was yellowed or if it was torn. Same thing with baseball cards, right? The more pristine, the more mint, the higher the value. Condition was the one variable, and of course, perceived supply and demand. The introduction of a character, right? With baseball cards, obviously, it was the goal was to find a rookie card of a player who had achieved great success batting or fielding or World Series rings, etc. Some of the questions that you had to ask yourself back then are really like the questions now, right? Identification of a rookie and getting a rookie card of a guy you don't know. Just by looking at his name or what team he's playing for, if he's going to become a star, you'd look at the stats. It was the same thing with comic books, and it's the same thing with stocks. And later in the next chapter of this, I'll tell you a little bit more. But think about things where you've had investment in hobbies. I want the stock market to be your hobby. It is mine as well as my profession. And we'll talk soon. Thanks for tuning in, and love for you to subscribe. Thank you.